Undergrads who apply these credits, on average, save about 1 year and $11,000. Get the credit you deserve for time spent in the classroom, on the job, and in life. And see how you can save at phoenix.edu. That's phoenix.edu.
First, king for a queen, queen for a twin event, plus a free adjustable base with select models. It's the perfect time to save on the perfect mattress for you. Or enjoy a $300 Amazon gift card with the purchase of the world-famous Tempur-Pedic. In stock, ready for fast, free delivery. Sleep first, no pressure, lowest prices guaranteed. In Lodi, across from Costco in front of Sprouts.
150 years of planning a 4th of July barbecue that swings like it's 1946.
It's the 4th of July, gather around the grill. Burgers and dogs, chicken thighs, what a thrill. Sliced watermelon, gold beer on ice. Smart and Final makes it all so nice.
Before you grill up your burgers, save some dough. Smart and Final's got family packs of Foster Farms chicken drumsticks or thighs, just 99 cents a pound, limit 4.
Smart and Final, one trip and that's it.
The IRS just rolled out a new program to help struggling taxpayers more easily resolve their tax problems. It's called the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, and it opens up powerful new options for people looking to get back on the right track with the IRS. And no one knows this program like the professionals at Optima Tax Relief, America's most trusted tax resolution company. They've resolved over $1 billion in tax debt for their clients and have the expertise and experience to help you. One easy call to Optima can start the process, helping to put an end to your worries of wage garnishment, asset seizure, and other aggressive IRS actions. Make today the beginning of your fresh start with the IRS. Call the experts at Optima Tax Relief now for your free confidential consultation.
Call 800-896-8155. 800-896-8155. 800-896-8155.
Optima Tax Relief.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenido to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, we love you in Canada and Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. It's the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful June the 25th, 2021. Gondo Deportes. Bonjour, Big C. The Veni Vidi Vici. How do you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, as we say down here south, we're having a fantabulous day. You know, we're enjoying everything. It's Friday. Made it through the week. We're all excited. Got a great weekend of sports ahead. Once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. They'll be there with all the Band-Aids and gauze to take care of all those bloody noses over the weekend.
It's all fair in love and war. I don't know who's having a bloody nose over the weekend unless you represent some NHL hockey. It's all fair in love and war. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. It was a fleet of Cadillac cars never stop arriving. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear them. Welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really do appreciate the way things are wrong with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. You better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing, especially pausing on a Friday, but I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, more and more people are doing it from sea to shining sea. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's very important that we always keep the men and women who are serving our armed forces in our thoughts and prayers throughout this country, Charlton. But we also need to be more informed about the mental health of those individuals, Charlton, after they've left their tours of duty. And unfortunately, it has led to over 24 suicides created every day amongst our former armed forces personnel, Charlton. A very horrific number, a very horrific disease. And we as a country need to pay more attention. We give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton.
Yep.
But suicide is a hotline within itself. And Americans all need to pay attention to the reasons and causes of suicide. lack of communication, Charlton, deteriorating mental health has been one of the number one issues that have led to suicide in this nation, Charlton.
Yeah.
People not paying attention to others, people bullying others, Charlton, and we need to be more compassionate towards all Americans. And that's one of the things that this country has forgotten how to do. So we give out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton. We need all Americans to think about that in their daily plight, as well as thinking about the mental health of other people that they want to attack.
Very well said. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you could definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones, even if that loved one is you. Also, I want to say very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the first place San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run king Barry Bonds. When you reach out to him, just tell him Big C Center. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country, helping to put people back to work just like McDonald's does it. Car dealerships are doing it. Sports teams are doing it. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3. Let there be light. Open your cell phones and say it. Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world. And I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. Big C, I know I watch a lot of MMA, and I love the world of MMA. Those guys are very tough. If you want to call not feeling being kicked in the nose tough, Big C, it's all very love and word, Big C. But you also alluded that you like bloody sports, too. Who's going to have a bloody nose over the weekend, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, we saw where the Los Angeles Clippers wanted to beat up on Devin Booker and give him a broken bloody nose in a game a couple of nights ago, Charlton, to throw off his shot with the swollen eyes and stuff. So who knows what lows the Clippers will go to next.
Yeah, that was all staged. Steve Nash had the same nose covering back in the day, and they're saying he performed like the great Steve Nash. Sometimes you got to watch the clues, Big C. The NBA is all about clues, and Ripley's Believe It or Not, that was a clue. But thinking of a bloody nose, there's a thing out here on the West Coast called the Pacific Ocean. Oftentimes you'll see beautiful butterflies flying around the Pacific Ocean, trying to see if they can also surf on that Pacific Ocean, Big C. But there's some times when you realize if you've never surfed and you're not used to surfing, sometimes you will get a bloody nose, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, that's what all that water is there for, to wash it away.
Yeah, it's all fair in love and war. You know, the great Michael Jackson, unfortunately, about 20 years ago, it was a long time ago, about 10 years ago, people had the sad news of the great Michael Jackson. But one of his great opportunities to listen to his music was Living Off the Wall. The last night, the NBA playoff basketball universe, the Los Angeles Clippers, they blasted the Phoenix Suns. It was 116-102. As King Paul George was doing Michael Jackson, Living Off the Wall. You know that song, Living Off the Wall? I can't hit the notes like Michael Jackson did. But he was living off the wall, a.k.a. the king of pop, Michael Jackson, when he lived off the wall of a 50-foot three-pointer to end the third quarter, and he was doing Michael Jackson living off the wall. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is a desperation win for the Los Angeles Clippers, Charlton. They really needed this to get back in the hunt to stay in competitiveness for this series, Charlton, of the Western Conference Finals. But you also got to look at it, as you say, look at the clues. The Phoenix Suns can't close it out at home if they win all four in Los Angeles.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're coming anywhere near to winning all four of anything. And, it's a great basketball game until they decided, Tyronn Lue decided to pull the starters at about 2.5 minutes to go in the game. They realized they had already had it wrapped up, and Phoenix realized it's hard to surf. You just can't come from the desert and learn to surf on the Pacific Ocean in one day, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they went up and down the floor the best that they could. When they lost Cameron Payne in the game, it really changed the complexity and the outlook on the game. Chris Paul was rusty after missing 2 games with COVID-19, Charlton, and
Yeah.
you've been a stern advocate of players who have had COVID-19 not having their full faculty and physical stress about them, especially during the football season.
Yeah, the great King Paul George told all of his critics, all you guys sound a lot taller on the radio, but come out and surf. You want to surf? Come out and surf, and then I'll have more respect for you. It's all fair, 11 War. You know, I want to say one thing before I just talk about a few things that happened in the game. I know that people talk about COVID and how people overcome COVID, and they talked about that laissez-faire attitude that people have in Los Angeles. Oh, there's a playoff game? Well, I'll show up in the second period, and then I'll leave in the third. LA has always been known for its freeways, Big C, its great restaurants, beautiful people, and late arriving crowds, Big C, but that's just part of LA, Big C.
Well, Charlton, that's in any major metropolitan city in America. If you look at the placement of all major arenas, they're normally in a downtown core, Charlton, which don't have great thoroughways to get to. So a lot of congestion, and when you look at games starting, Charlton, they're normally starting around rush hour, so it makes it difficult for anybody to get to the arena unless you're the business owner.
Yeah, and that's when you fly in. A lot of people in LA, they just use helicopters to get around if they have that kind of money. But every minute of the day is rush hour in LA. I love LA, California, love the great Tupac and Dr. Dre, Big C. They were playing I Love LA last night. The LA Clippers, they think about what they did though. And sometimes maybe this stuff is scripted, Big C. I have no idea. But the Clippers have overcome two separate 2-0 deficits in the postseason, Big C, on Thursday when they took their first step toward doing it for a third time. Like Ali won the championship 3 times in a row, if you remember that back in the day, Big C. But after falling behind in the first half, the Clippers erupted in the second half to win Game 3, 106-92. And they now have a chance to even the series. And Game 4, that's going to be on Saturday night. This still will be a later arriving crowd in Los Angeles. That's just how they do it, Big C. I want to make sure I got the score right. It was 106-92 as they blew out the Suns from Phoenix. The great King Paul George, Palmdale, California's finest, 27 points. But it's been the case so many times this postseason, it was Reggie Jackson, Big C, that sealed the win with an incredible fourth quarter performance, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you look at the Clippers, Charlton, I mean, they were outplayed in the first half by the Suns. And the Suns were saying, you know, if we're going to go back to Phoenix and close this out in front of home fans, we can't win Game 3. And so you look at the game, did the Clippers really play that great a defense in the third period? Or did the Suns take enough bad shots not to be competitive?
Yeah.
I mean, this was a game that the NBA needed. They needed to even up, to try to get closer to evening up this series, Charlton. Because we know that games mean money, finance-wise, for the league.
Yeah.
The more games that are played, the more broadcast money is generated,
Yep.
and you keep the fans glued to the tube.
You do keep them glued. And that's why the NBA, you can watch the NBA on the most pivotal play down in Phoenix, Arizona. It was 0.9 seconds left, and DeAndre Ayton tipped the ball out of bounds. They did not show one replay. Not one, Big C. And that's because sometimes you got to follow the script. If you don't follow the script, you're going to sit on the bench. That good old boy Reggie Jackson, Big C, not the Mr. October, but he finished with a game, 23 points to make the series 2-1. This series could easily be 2-1 in LA's favor had they shown DeAndre Ayton knocking the ball out of bounds down in Phoenix, but that's not part of the script, Big C. The Suns, meanwhile, they got very little out of their star guard. Tandem, the great Chris Paul and Devin Booker combined to shoot a horrific. They were 10 of 40. You know, you did mention, I know you like a lot of gamblers too, so you get some inside information and all that stuff. But I know you said that it wouldn't be that great for Chris Paul to be out. But if you got COVID, that means you're dealing with something. You know, you're dealing with something. And they put him back in after the guy that was filling in for him, I think, had gone for 29 points the prior games, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Cameron Payne sprung his ankle in the first half, Charlton, which was a swing of momentum for the Los Angeles Clippers in this game. I didn't think that Chris Paul would be effective in this game,
Neither
regardless of what occurred. I thought he would be more of a hindrance than an asset. When you think about the rhythm that the Phoenix Suns had been playing in the first 2 games of the series, and now you basically slow down the action of the Phoenix Suns because you bring in Chris Paul. He's more of a setup offense player, Charlton, half-court player, not full-court all-out sprinter, as you had when he was missing from the lineup. So I thought that it would be a detriment to the Phoenix Suns offense, and it proved to be that way.
Yeah, they lost the rhythm of the night. The great DeBarge is all fair and level war. The Suns, but see, they had not lost a game since May 27. That's a staggering 9-game winning streak, and they're running the roughshod over the Lakers and the Nuggets to get there and also that tip-in with the win over the Los Angeles Clippers, all because the NBA refused to show that DeAndre Ayton hand knocked the ball out of bounds in a play that crucial, and they always go to New York, especially in the final minute of the game. Not one director said, let's run back and see whose hand actually touched the ball, because it would have been the Clippers' ball. They would have won that game. But they got what they wanted. They got the script that they're looking for, Big C. It's all fair and love and war, as King Paul George was doing his thing down by the Pacific Ocean. So I told you, Big C, whenever you go out by the Pacific Ocean, not only do you bring your surfboard, but you got to also bring a life raft, Big C, because they don't let good old boys get away coming out of the Valley of the Sun and just learn to surf on the first day, Big C. Your thoughts?
Charlton, let me give you the SPCA, the analogy of that game that Phoenix won. You alleged that Ayton knocked the ball out of bounds and they didn't go to the replay. Yeah. If the dog hadn't stopped to sniff the fire hydrant, we'd have caught the rabbit. So that, you know, anybody can build an analogy on any scenario that they want. So the bottom line is they lost the game. Yeah. And you can't sit there and cry over the spilled milk because it's going to go bad and got dirt in it while it's on the floor, okay? Yeah. And so you pick yourself up and move on to the next game. Yeah. They won game 3. Yeah. They have the momentum right now. And so if you have the momentum and you go in and lose game 4, what will be the excuse at that point?
Well, I did put on a call to Comcast because I called Comcast. I said, wait a minute. I watched the DVR and I put it on slow motion and it showed Ayton's hand hit the ball out of bounds down in Phoenix. But the NBA and their billion-dollar organization, they didn't see the same thing. So I was wondering, do they show the same game on Comcast Picture that they have in the games? Big for your thoughts.
Well, Charlton, maybe the NBA pocket was a little different in discussing about who's going to see what on the broadcast.
It's all fair in love and war. I love the movie Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds, as it's butterflies. You know, there's a song called You Give Me Butterflies. Also, the great Michael Jackson, is all fair in love and war, Big C. The NBA playoff basketball universe. There's rumors that the United States Intelligence Department, they're going to actually release footage of UFOs, unidentified flying objects, and that's real talk going back to Area 51, Big C. So we don't know if it's real or if it's some other technology that somebody else has on the planet, or if it really comes from long, long ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's all fair in love and war. But there is rumor there was an emergency warning and there were sirens that were blaring in the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Big C. People were sighting 6 and 7 feet tall hawks that were flying around invading the city trying to steal game 2, Big C.
Well, I mean, the Hawks have been the phenom of the NBA playoff stuff, and this is a team that no one gave much bother to. You know, when you think about the All-Star break and the position of the Hawks in that team, Charlton, you know, this was a team that, you know, was 15 games below 500 at the All-Star break. Yep. But once they made a coaching change to Nate McMillan, Charlton, this team responded, you know, rapidly to his tutelage, Charlton, and taking over from Lloyd Pierce. And the players have identified with him, and they played their hearts out for each other, Charlton. But also you got to realize that the Hawks had some injuries prior to the All-Star break. Yep. When you look at Gallinari, he was coming off of knee surgery. I think he only played in the first 7 games of the season. Yeah. So once they got him back into the lineup, Charlton, they had depth off the bench. And when you think about what Herter has done in the playoffs, he's been astronomical. Also, he inserted Clint Capella into the starting lineup, Nate McMillan, when he took over as head coach, interim head coach of the Hawks, Charlton. Yeah. And all of those moves have worked out for success and got them to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, the Nate McMillan's been doing his thing, Big C. Then all those 6 and 7 foot Hawks that people were concerned about flying around the beautiful city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Rumor has it they flew up out of the south part of Atlanta like Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds. And just like in the Birds, Big C, they did a lot of damage in the looking for venison. Isn't it good for the people that are not looking for people that just want some venison, Big C, and us? Well, Charlton, those are actually turkey flying around looking for roadkill. But, you know, when you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, Charlton, this is a team that I'm very disappointed in, you know, starting with head coach Budenholzer. Yeah. And I'm disappointed in Giannis, and I'm disappointed in Lopez. The tallest man that the Hawks put on the floor any night in the game, Charlton, is 6'9", Clint Capella. Yeah. Clint Capella had 19 rebounds versus 2 7-footers. Think about that. 19 rebounds versus 2 7-foot centers, Charlton, that the Milwaukee Bucks can back down in the paint. Yeah. Not only that, he had 3 critical offensive rebound putback baskets in the fourth quarter that helped propel the Hawks to a win. Yeah. And so, like I said, when I think about the Milwaukee Bucks, when I think about Lopez and I think about Antetokounmpo, they remind me of 12-year-old boys who walk into the toilet and forget about to pull up the toilet seat off and get everything all messed up. All they got to do is move it down in the paint, just like lifting up the toilet seat, and they'll win the game.
Yeah. Where I grew up, my brothers and I, we would just go out and water the backyard, mixing who needs a toilet seat. You got guys great country to go urinate in. It's all fair at 11 war. It will always infiltrate in the backyard, Big C. But the Hawks, those 6 and 7 foot tall Hawks that are being called in to all the law enforcement around the city of Milwaukee, they're coming off an impressive outing, the first game of the series after beating Philadelphia 76ers in 7 games. Atlanta came out aggressive. They'd already finished off New York, Big C. I guess they were doing what the Michael Jackson did. He did his East Coast tour, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, like I said, when your 7-footers are the guys that are out there shooting 3-point shots, and your guards are in the paint trying to get rebounds, they're going to get out-rebounded, Dolphins. And that's what Milwaukee did. I go back to one of the games against Brooklyn where Giannis didn't take a shot from outside the paint. Everything he took was inside. He didn't take a 3-point shot.
Yeah.
He scored 34 points that night, Charleston, and they dominated the Brooklyn Nets. He scored 34 points in this game versus the Atlanta Hawks, Charleston, but he jacked up at least 7 3-point shots from the arc and only hit 2.
Yeah.
So he's taking himself out of the efficiency market.
Yeah.
And when you have a team of big men, you have to be efficient from the floor shooting. Even Trae Young shot a paltry less than 35% from the 3-point arc. And I question a lot of the 3-point shots that he takes. Because when you're hosting them up from 35 to 37 feet, Charleston, that's not good for your team. You have to knock that down to be considered a quality shot. And he didn't shoot well from the 3-point arc.
Yeah.
He is so effective when he goes into the paint.
Yeah.
He draws everybody to it. He dishes it off on a lob or a floater, Charleston. That's how he was able to get to the 48-point mark, not from the 3-point arc.
Yeah, he's like Hawk and the Avengers, Big C, using those wings to fly high and fly low. It's all fair and level war. But when you think about the phenom out of Atlanta, Big C, the great Ice Trae Young, leading the way in Game 1, he dropped 48 points, just one more basket away from 50, and then one less than the Bucks playing, power forward Giannis Antetokounmpo. And you have Chris Middleton also combined. He outperformed or nearly outperformed both of those stars of Milwaukee combined. The Bucks were stunned at home. I don't think they were stunned. Going back to what you're saying, if you're 7 feet tall, sometimes God gives you a clue. All you really got to do is reach up and you can almost touch the top of the rim without even jumping. But some guys like the challenge of trying to shoot from 23 feet away at Big C. If they do that again, that warning sirens that are going off in Milwaukee, it will come true. That's in 7 foot and 6 foot tall birds came through and stole all the venison out of Milwaukee. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the Milwaukee Bucks are trying to be what they're not, Charleston. They're trying to be a 3-point shooting team. Yes, you'll hit them periodically, but you're not going to hit them consistent enough. If I'm 7 feet tall, Charleston, I want to be within 10 feet of the basket, where I can do that little jump hook, and we saw Giannis do the little jump hook against the Brooklyn Nets, and was successful with it. But these are the things that they're not challenging the Atlanta Hawks. Why do you go away from your strength? This is the reason why Budenholzer got fired in Atlanta when he had a 60-game win season. He went to Milwaukee, had a 60-game win season, got eliminated. He got eliminated again last year. So is this going to be the 3rd year in a row that he gets eliminated, Charleston, potentially having the best physical team in the East and don't know how to coach him?
That don't know how to coach him. Omaha! Like Omaha! The great Omaha commercial for the Atlanta Hawks, Big C. I know you have a lot of friends in Vegas, and I don't believe, they know a lot because it's like, how do they know so much, Big C? But against the spread, when you think about against the spread, Big C, you lean to the Hawks. In fact, you lean to the Atlanta Hawks. They're +8 against the spread. They've been a covering machine in the playoffs, and no one expected them to be here. That's why Vegas knows something. I don't expect to see an Atlanta victory at times, Big C, and that's what a lot of people thought. Almost laying double-digit points against a team that won Game 1 is just too much, Big C. But Atlanta is 9-4 against the spread in the playoffs. That's incredible, Big C. The Bucks, who've been given some outrageous numbers throughout the playoffs, because people follow the numbers when they pick money out of their pocket, Big C. They're only 6-6 against the spread. Milwaukee, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the reason why Atlanta is 9-4 against the spread, Charleston, because they've been the underdog in every game. Every game that Atlanta has played in the playoffs, they've been the underdog. So there's no way they're going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, Charleston, without winning more than they lose. And so that's the reason why they've covered the spread. The Milwaukee Bucks, on the other hand, I said it comes down to those 2 7-footers and the head coach, Charlton. The reason why they're 6-6 against the spread, they could easily be, 10-2 against the spread if Budenheiser decides to utilize those big men as big men.
Yeah. Well, Big C, sometimes people don't want to be so tall. They just don't want to be too tall. They don't want to have too much weight. And some men hate that God made them 7 feet tall. It's all fair in love and war. But I do look at the coach. He has a chance to call a timeout and get things right. It's all fair in love and war. I just want to pay homage also to all the great people in Los Angeles. I think California was one of the last states to open up, Big C, and they really showed out at Staples Center last night, even though they waited till the second period to do so. The crowd in LA, they've always been that way. You can watch a Dodger game and you don't see a packed house really until about the second or third inning, Big C. So that's just part of what happens when you don't have a mass transit system that covers all of the LA basin. They have a pretty much north-south light rail system, but you got to take cars in Los Angeles. WNBA basketball universe is fantastic, even though they're up against some big boys, Big C. The Las Vegas, they're at Minnesota. We wish our women nothing but the best as they do their best to get inside of the world of the basketball TV audience. Big C, I wanna bring something up because I know a lot of people have their own opinions. I told you one of my favorite TV shows back in the day when I was growing up, it was called Dallas with the great J.R. Ewing, Big C. The Dallas Mavericks, they've reached an agreement with Jason Kidd. We talked about it with someone yesterday to make him the next head coach. Now, Kidd, who had 2 stints with the franchise during his nearly 2 decades playing career, has been an assistant coach with the Lakers since 2019. He was previously the head coach of the, at the time, New Jersey Nets, and then also the Milwaukee Bucks. He guided the Nets to the NBA Finals, where they were swept by the Los Angeles Lakers, the great Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, Big C. And then the Bucks, he had his own issues off the court, but everybody has issues off the court, Big C, at times.
Well, everybody doesn't have issues off the court, especially when you don't make them public, Charlton, and he didn't know how to keep it private. But this is a great opportunity for Jason Kidd to get back into the head coaching ranks of the NBA. He has been a proven commodity, Charlton, but I also respect that he's young enough to understand the current day player, Charlton. He has a relationship with the Dallas community because he was a member of that 2011 Dallas Mavericks NBA championship team, Charlton. So he's basically going back home to rekindle relationships and have a grasp of that roster. But I think the great understanding of that he can have of a Luka Doncic, who is a similar type player as Kidd, who has so much court savvy, Charlton. And if he can get a little bit more out of Kristaps Porzingis, they can move further in the playoffs than what they've done in the past.
Would you keep Kristaps Porzingis, Big C? They already have the great Luka Doncic. Porzingis, sometimes he's a health issue. When he's on, but when he's off, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, who hasn't been hurt in the NBA? I'm going to keep the guy because he's a bona fide talent. This guy is 7'3", Charlton. He has all the agility that you would ask. But he's also a big man that you got to teach him. He can be a little more physical about his game.
Yeah, he needs to lift a little bit of weights, too. That's just my opinion. It's all fair and love and war, Big C. When you think about Jason Kidd as a young man, I remember watching this guy play in high school at St. Joseph Notre Dame at Alameda in the Bay Area. He was just a high school superstar, and he was playing a lot of the offseason with NBA players and around some of the training camps, Big C. So he's been groomed ever since he was out of the high school area, Big C. He's only 48 years old, has the supportive team owner Mark Cuban, who is like JR down in I wouldn't say Mark Cuban's JR. I would say Jerry Jones more like JR. I guess if Mark Cuban, if Jerry Jones is JR, you say Mark Cuban's maybe Bobby, his brother, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I wasn't familiar with either one of them, Charlton, but like I said, this is a great move to break some familiarity. You give another African-American opportunity to be a head coach in the NBA. This is the second one that has been hired thus far in the offseason, so there's still 4 openings to go as far as head coaching positions in the NBA, Charlton. How many more will be filled by African Americans?
Well, 7 this year, and then there's 3 of the final 4 left, and even Doc Rivers would have been 5 there because he got knocked out of the finals by another African American in McMillan, Big C. I think that all matters when owners are talking about who do we need to lead our team into the future. Also back to Dallas, Mark Cuban, the great legends, Dirk Nowitzki, Big C, among others, involved in the hiring process, and of course the great Luka Doncic. I think Dallas is in a great spot to really build that franchise down there. Now that they have a guy that's coming in, the great Jason Kidd, that knows how to get the ball down inside the paint and not just try to live at the three-point arc. It's all fair in Level War. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about what the great Marvin Gaye said. What's going on? Yeah, tell me what's going on. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll be back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps that you can follow with Big C Sports, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. I want to say thank you to Xfinity Comcast TV and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said in Genesis 1:3, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up from all over the world, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. You know, there's so much going on. It's hot all over the country, especially hot in California. I know they were running some PSAs in California saying for elderly people, especially with the heat expected to rise, it kind of fluctuates, but make sure if you're taking medications that you also take lots of water, because a lot of times people just forget to do that, Big C, and it's so important that we give that PSA. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's important to hydrate any time of the year, whether it's in the winter. People don't realize you lose just as much exhaustion in the winter as you do in the summer, Charlton. So it's very important to take in at least 64 ounces of water a day minimum for any individual.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I know even for myself, I do take my blood pressure medications. I always want to make sure that I'm doing my best to not forget, and some people they'll get what they call those weekly trays where you just put everything out and you have it 7 days in advance. And so whatever you got to do, make sure you check on the elderly also. Make sure they're staying hydrated and doing what they got to do. Big C, we know we have the Bay Bridge Series out here in Northern California, and they'll be doing that in the Bay Area. I know a lot of people will be out watching Major League Baseball today. Today's scheduled for a beautiful June the 25th, 2021. The pitch hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run! In McCovey Cove, is all fair in Leavenworth. The schedule today, the Phillies are at the Mets, Big C. The Rockies are playing at the Brewers. I guess the Brewers called in some big 6-foot-tall birds coming in also, Big C. The Orioles are at the Blue Jays. The Nationals will be in Miami taking on the Marlins. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. The New York Yankees and the Red Sox, Big C. That's also a big game going on at Fenway Park, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, East Coast baseball always seems to have a different mantra than what you have on the West Coast. So many, knowledgeable fans on the East Coast, much more field stadiums, Charlton. It's just a great scenery for baseball.
Yeah, it's all fair in Leavenworth. I disagree with that, having better baseball played on the East Coast. 3 of the top 5 are in the West Coast in the National League, Big C, and also tossing in the A's. But the Braves are at the Reds, Big C. The Phillies are at the Mets. You have the Royals at the Texas Rangers. Be careful down in Texas. The Mariners are at the White Sox. Tony La Russa has proven that you can take a nap and come out much more refreshed, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about the baseball that's played up in the Midwest part of the country, especially in the state of Illinois, Charlton, you got the Sox and you got the Cubs. I mean, they got great fan bases, and the Sox right now are contending for one of the top slots in the American League.
Yeah, they're doing their thing. The Indians at the Twins, the Pirates at the Cardinals, and the Oakland Athletics in the Bay Bridge Series with the San Francisco Giants over here in San Francisco, McCovey Cove. The Diamondbacks at the Padres, and the Cubs are at the defending world champion Los Angeles Dodgers. But last night, I guess the Dodgers decided, I'm tired of scoring runs, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I'm looking at that Bay Area series, Charlton. Will it be possible that they could get a sellout out there? You got two teams that are 20 miles apart.
10.
And it's going to be curious how big the fans are on baseball out there, whether they get sellouts or not.
Yeah, they're 10 miles apart, and they've opened up. I mean, the Bay Area is really tough on COVID, trying to keep people at bay, but it should be a packed house over at McCovey Cove in San Francisco tonight. It's all fair in Leavenworth. But I also want to focus on the Major League MVP watch. There's 2 epic races, Big C, that have everything. You think about what's going on this month. Major League Baseball Awards watch. The update is a bit of a change-up, Big C, as we're focusing exclusively on one category, and that's most valuable player. And why? Mostly because the races in both leagues, they really are shaping up to be among the most intriguing that we've had in some time, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, baseball, I mean, when you think about the players that are performing well right now, I mean, it's such an outstanding list. You think about Jacob DeGrom. You think about Vlad Jr. You think about Shohei Ohtani, Charlton. We got players right now playing magnificent baseball, but they're not being seen on television as much as other sports.
Yeah, not as much as other sports. And when you think about the star power, you talked about names involved or how closely arranged, that pecking order, Big C, like those Atlanta Hawks may be pecking at those Bucks tonight in Milwaukee, Big C. But it seems to be right now, that mostly because of how well and this landscape has turned out when you look at it in the American League. I mean, the Oakland A's are doing their thing in the American League in Oakland, Big C. But the American League, you have a two-way superstar, Shohei Ohtani, down in Los Angeles, Anaheim, going toe-to-toe with a breakout young hitter in the great Vladimir Guerrero Jr. His daddy was also knocking the ball off the Sox, Big C. But when it's poised to make a run at the league's Triple Crown, that's amazing, Big C. Your thoughts?
I mean, it's an amazing feat that both of these young players, Charlton, have such a grasp for the game. I think most part, Charlton, people get stuck with old names that they recognize, so it's easier to root for. But the baseball purists understand how great these two young players are, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you had Vlad Guerrero Jr. in chase of a Triple Crown,
amazing.
I mean, that's phenomenal for a young player to be able to do. And then when you look at what Shohei Ohtani is doing, this hasn't been done since the great Babe Ruth, Charlton,
Wow.
to be able to go out and dominate on the mound and in the field at the same time.
Yeah, to do it on the mound and the field at the same time, Big C. I tell you what, when you talk about the great Babe Ruth, a lot of people, they know that Babe Ruth was actually African-American, Big C. Everybody's African-American when you look at life that comes from Africa. The whole planet Earth started in Africa. Dr. Leakey and Gregory Mendez all fared in Love War. But I want to swing you also over to the National League, where there's a lot of good baseball teams over here in the NL West. The Giants, the best team in baseball right now record-wise. You also have the Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. They're just knocking the lever off the ball. But in the National League, in the leaderboard, in the advanced metrics, they're dominated by starting pitchers. I know you like baseball guys who can hit the ball over the fence more than pitchers, Big C. But when you think about it, led by history Mets chasing ace, the great Jacob DeGrom. I love Jacob DeGrom's pitch, Big C. But we also have two others, the game's brightest young stars, in my opinion, Fernando Tatis Jr. His daddy was also knocking the ball out of the yard. And the great Ronald Acuna Jr. in building up strong MVP resumes. And Ronald Acuna Jr., he's heading out of the South, Big C, out of Atlanta. And all of these guys can go yard, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, when I look at Ronald Acuna Jr., Charlton, I'm looking at the next consistent 40-40 player in Major League Baseball. This young man has all the attributes that you can expect from a young superstar, Charlton, and he's delivered during his 2 years down in Atlanta. Jacob DeGrom is unconscious on the mound. I don't even know if he walks out there or if it's just an image of him in a hologram because nobody's been able to hit him.
Yeah.
So what he's throwing maybe not even be real up to the plate, Charlton. But we've never seen, I know in my lifetime, a pitcher that has dominated the game like Jacob DeGrom is. Fernando Tatis Jr. has to find a way to stay healthy.
Yeah.
When he's healthy, he's one of the top 5 players in baseball.
Yeah.
But he's missed a stretch of about 20 games, and he has to find a way to fight back from that.
Yeah, you got to find a way to fight back from that. So they're all young. You know, I remember watching the great Ken Griffey Jr. when he was knocking the leather off the ball. Barry Bonds when he was knocking the leather off the ball. Big C, Rod Carew, Reggie Jackson, those guys were knocking the leather off the ball. But these guys, you know, they're still young. And, you know, Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco, the Bass brothers, Big C, they were knocking the leather off the ball. There was a reason for it. They did a lot of push-ups. And like Popeye, they ate a lot of spinach, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, everybody's young at some point in their career, Charlton, but it comes down to understanding the game.
Yeah.
Preparation for the game. If you prep yourself and train properly, you can be successful. It's not about the age of a player because when you look at Hank Aaron, when he broke Babe Ruth's home run record, he was in his 40s.
Yeah.
So it's about the plight of a player and understanding what they're doing mechanically.
Yeah, watching the mechanicals, they have so much more when it comes to physical therapy. Guys that can help them get healthy and stay healthy year-round, as baseball is a year-round industry and has the best union in all of sports, in my opinion. It's all fair, love, and war. But I know you love watching the guys hit the long ball, Big C. Girls love the long ball and men love to hit the deep. But when it goes to pitching, Philadelphia Phillies pitcher Aaron Nola, Big C, struck out 10 straight The New York Mets Friday, tying a major league record that stood for more than 5 decades, Big C. The great Hall of Famer Tom Seaver, he found his final 10 hitters for the Mets in a 10-2 victory over the San Diego Padres. It was at Shea Stadium. It was April 22nd, 1970 back in the day, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, and that was a year after the Mets won their first World Series, Charlton. You know, when they had Tom Seaver and the great Nolan Ryan on the same mound together, you know, with the Mets. But, you know, when you think about striking out 10 consecutive batters in Major League, especially with the mechanics and the tools that the players have as far as recognition and all the thought of what umpires are doing to the pitchers, Charlton, suspecting them of having doctoring the baseball. But to have 10 consecutive strikeouts on any level, Charlton, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And, you know, you got to give him praise for what he did in that game.
Yeah. You know, Big C, when we talked about the era of Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Jose Canseco, and that good old boy Clemens, and I think they all testified in front of Congress, which is they have their own issues, Big C, but they didn't have to disrobe in public. They were able to do things in private, and some of those guys have come out and said, yeah, they were wrong, and some guys have not come out and said they were wrong. But isn't it amazing? The guys who said they were wrong, based on how they were suspected of being wrong, they didn't have to pull their pants down in public. And Big C, your thoughts?
Yeah, but Charlton, they lost a lot of credibility about what they had been doing. So that's even more than pulling your pants down.
Yeah.
Because it costs you immortality. You're not in the Baseball Hall of Fame because of your cheating and admitting to doing it.
Yeah, it's all fair and level war. I think the great Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame as well as other players. I know they're holding out Barry Bonds for some reason, but it's all fair in level war. Speaking of the baseball, the guys that go deep, they hit it deep. They like to hit it deep, Big C, and they like to strike them out. They like to strike them out too, Big C. The young guys that are trying to ascend to that level, I want to turn our focus just briefly to the College Baseball World Series. That's when the young guys, they do it all natural, Big C. Nobody's ever been accused of shenanigans in baseball College World Series, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, you know, you use that aluminum bat. I mean, you can't use an aluminum bat in the Major League. It gives you an advantage. And actually, if you had a Major Leaguer using an aluminum bat, Charlton, unfortunately, you may have had a loss of life on that level. But, you know, it's exciting to watch the young guys at the college level, Charlton, because there is some sense of purity still in the game.
There is some sense of purity in the game. It's all fair and level war, except for the parents that pay for their kids to go to college without the right transcripts. It's all fair and level war. But Kumar Rocker, Big C, struck out 11. He did it in 6 innings, Big C. I struck out 11 one time, but I was in Little League. He did it in 6 innings. And Vanderbilt won 3-1 at the College World Series on Friday against North Carolina State team without half of its roster because of COVID-19 issues that a lot of people have gotten too lax on, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it affects everyone all the way through. As people thought COVID-19 was gone and everything could get back to normal in America, it's showing that it is still there. We saw it in the NBA with Chris Paul, and now we've seen it in the College Baseball World Series with North Carolina State Wolfpack, Charlton. When you lose half your starting lineup, you had to play some pitchers as field position players, Charlton, today in this game. But when you look at Kumar Rocker, Charlton, it shows what genetics are, great genetics. His dad, Tracy Rocker, played at the University of Auburn and in the NFL for several years, Charlton, and his son decided to go the baseball route. He took all that athletic ability that he got from his dad. He most likely will be the first pitcher taken in this fall's Major League draft.
Yeah, that good old boy knows how to throw. Strike one, strike two, strike three, struck him out. It's all fair in Lebanon, Big C. The Commodores 48-16. They forced a second bracket, first final Saturday. And this, I mean, he's not going to pitch, obviously, Saturday, but they'll get him up there again if they get to that next game. And they will, game 3, best of 2 of 3, Big C. And then the winner going against the best of 3 finals, that's going to be starting Monday. And most likely they'll get to see him again if that's not too short of a holdover, Big C. Your thoughts?
Oh, no, Charlton, he will pitch again. When you think about that, that's the reason why he didn't go a complete game today, because they know that they're going to need him on a short turnaround. So they only left him out there for 6 instead of 9 because he had only given up 1 run at that point, Charlton, in the game. Yeah,
he's an amazing pitcher. I really love watching him do his thing. Rockets projected a top 10 pick in Major League Baseball, a top 10 pick in the Major League Baseball draft. That's next month, Big C, right up the road. And he was a College World Series most outstanding player in 2019. There was no College World Series last year because of the pandemic, and now we're having the series played this year, and we have a team, North Carolina State, half their rosters out. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, it's an unfortunate incident for North Carolina State, but I think even still with their full roster, Charlton, that Vanderbilt is too much. There seems to be a team of destiny.
Yeah, we'll see. It's all fair and love and war. It's hard to go as you're the projected winner. I know last year UCLA was picked to win it all, and I think they didn't win it. I think it was Michigan, if my math is right. It's all fair and love and war. Big C. I wish everybody nothing but the best. We still are dealing with COVID. For all the people that are in colleges and they're planning on doing whatever with the college break, don't let your guards down. You still got to pay attention no matter what TV shows you with packed stadiums. And I just wonder with all these packed stadiums if we're going to see more of this rising. I mean, it can't just be an anomaly, Big C, that it happened with North Carolina State. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, if you don't report it, no one knows.
Yeah, that's true. That's very well said, Big C. But they obviously reported it down there. It's all fair and level war. I want to turn to the world of ice. Ice usually melts on the street, but if it melts on the street, it goes to waste. I hope that all the hockey rinks that are not playing can bring some of that ice and let it melt in California so we can have more water to get rid of this drought. It's all fair and love and war. As we sing, "Oh, Canada, our home and native land," I want to say congratulations to the beautiful city of Montreal, Canada, Big C. The Montreal Canadiens, they're going into the Lower Stanley's Cup final for the first time, Big C, since 1993, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I know you want that ice to come out there to California, but I mean, if you do that, it shows us how filthy California is. If you ever notice what goes on that ice during that hockey game, Charlton, blood, sweat, and tears, and a whole lot of spit.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to drink after it's melted. Good luck to you for not catching, what that boy from USC catch when he was in New York? Mononucleosis.
Yeah.
It'll be rampant in California. But I mean, this is great to have the Montreal Canadiens, Charlton, in the Lord Stanley Cup. To have a Canadian team representing the Lord Stanley Cup for the hockey championship of the world, Charlton, you got an entire country that will be pulling for one team.
Yeah.
You won't get that in the U.S. It's a regional thing, depending on who, the New York Islanders getting that. California won't pay attention in whole to what's going on in the Stanley Cup. But Vancouver will do that up in Canada, so the entire country will be involved in this. And to have one of the original 6 teams to have back in the Stanley Cup, and you're saying for the first time since 1993. This is going to be great for hockey purists, Charlton.
Yeah, I noticed, I believe, and I might be wrong, when the Blue Jays won the World Series, I think they won it, I want to say 91 or 92, somewhere in there, but that's last time. Right after that, the Montreal Canadiens were able to get into the Lower Stanley's Cup too, Big C. It's all fair and love and war. And if you notice the crowd that was outside of the arena, they were all jam-packed in downtown Montreal, Big C, but they were not allowing more than I think a few hundred people inside of the arena. What's the difference of being jam-packed outside of the arena or inside of the arena, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's government responsibility as far as being in an enclosed environment. When you're outside the arena, Charlton, you're in an open-air scenario, just like at a baseball game or a football game. But when you think about Montreal as a whole, not just being traditional hockeyers, you're talking about some of the most intelligent hockey fans in the world are in Montreal. But to just go to that city, Charlton, which this city has some of the greatest restaurants, greatest architecture, greatest, libations that you could ever have. And the clubs are not bad either. But, this is something that's good for it's going to be U.S. versus Canada when it comes to the Stanley Cup. And like I said, the Montreal Canadiens will have an entire country behind them. The U.S. team will be lucky to have a state.
Speaking of that, how great that city of Montreal is, I believe the Roberto Duran and Sugar Ray Leonard fought up there also back in the day. I think that was their first fight. They also fought that in Montreal when they had baseball back in Montreal. Big C, your thoughts?
That was back in 1979, Charlton, at the Big O. I was fortunate enough to be at that fight, a spectacular event, 75,000 people in the stadium that night, Charlton, a hot, sweltering night in a July month. Boy, it was wonderful.
Is that the fight where you said Sugar Ray Leonard's bodyguard said, "Get out my seat, Big C," your thought?
No, that was at a fight. That was Riddick Bowe's initial championship fight. Sugar Ray Leonard was the promoter of Big Daddy Riddick Bowe, and in his first fight as a professional, we ended up having the same seats ringside.
Okay, well, it's all fair in Love War, Big C. When you think about Montreal, they defeated the Las Vegas Golden Knights, Big C, with 3-2 in Game 6 at home in overtime, and the crowd outside was so amazing. And that was last night, Big C. Continued an improbable run. Arturi Lokkonen, Big C, scored the winning goal with 1:39 in overtime. No Canadian team has hoisted the Lord Stanley's Cup since Montreal won in 1993, and few predicted that they would have the last laugh as Canadian teams standing this year. But I'm not rooting for any team, whether it's for the United States or Canada, but it sure would mean something to that whole country as the Montreal Canadiens, they have a chance to give Canada something to look forward to in a sport that they really started, Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you know, that's what sport's supposed to be about, Charlton, galvanizing a nation. And that's what hockey does in Canada. You talked about the Blue Jays when they won the World Series. Ironically, they did win back-to-back in 91 and 92. And then in 93, the Habs in Montreal won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
So when you talk about 3 consecutive titles there on the East Coast of Canada, they took them home, Charlton, in baseball and in hockey. And there's been a drought since then. So when you want to talk about a national treasure being brought back home, that is what Montreal is seeking to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. And obviously, you have the New York Islanders, and they're doing, you know, it's something about the New York Islanders, Big C, and then you will also have the Tampa Bay Lightning, Big C. I would love, and just my opinion, I would love to see, because the Islanders, I believe, this is their last year in their arena. It would be great if we had the New York Islanders and the Montreal Canadiens as they would compete for Lord Stanley's Cup. And it'd be amazing because in Canada, they have a lot more refrigerator to take back some of those New York Rats, Big C.
Well, Charlton, this will be the final year of the Nassau County Coliseum. And you think about the 4 Stanley Cups that the Islanders have won in that arena. And also the New York Nets won their only ABA title playing in that arena also, Charlton.
Yeah.
So this 50-year-old dinosaur of sports mecca of New York will be gone at the end of this season, Charlton. And they have a new arena that will be opening up next year. But in the final year, wouldn't it be great to see the Islanders go out in a blaze of glory, Charlton, in the Stanley Cup?
It really would, especially for Canada, our home and native land. Is all fair in Level War. So as we wait to find out who the Canadiens' opponent will be, the NHL has announced the full Stanley Cup final schedule, Big C. They announced it today. The puck is going to drop on the final cup on Monday. It's going to be June 28th, either going to be in Tampa or New York. I'm pulling for New York just because I think the atmosphere will be a little bit more rowdy, and a potential Game 7 will be played on Sunday, July 11th, if necessary, Big C. It's a lot of great things going on in sports, NBA, as well as NHL, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's great. You know, the greatest phase that they say in pro sports, team sports, Charlton, is Game 7, and we're going to get that in the NHL.
Yeah, we're going to get that in the NHL. It's all fair in Level War. And speaking of Game 7s, I don't know if we're going to see any Game 7s in this Eastern and Western Conference Championship Series with the Atlanta Hawks invading the beautiful city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They're looking for venison. They're not looking for people. Like War of the Worlds 1929, people were panicked when they heard that flying saucers were invading the planet Earth. As the United States, I believe the Defense Department released some evidence of what they say may or may not be butterflies flying around. Maybe they are UFOs. We have no idea, Big C. Whatever it is, if the little green Martian men, Big C, when I think about the Big C burger, it is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. You think maybe they're coming to find the Big C burger, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, in a world of CG, you got to show me instead of giving me a picture.
Yeah. Is it live or is it Memorex? It's all fair and Level War. But when you think about the NBA is enjoying a lot of chaos, Big C. The postseason has been unpredictable, and the NBA has its fan base, and they're reaping the benefits in different cities. We don't have Los Angeles in this year. We don't have Oakland, San Francisco in this year. We don't have Cleveland in this year, Big C. And we don't have Miami, but we do have Los Angeles for the Clippers, even though a lot of people in LA, they don't own the Clippers unless they reach the finals, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Charlton, every fan base should have an opportunity to enjoy being in the finals in the NBA. I think there becomes a little, fatigue when you have the same teams over and over. And I think you talked about earlier in the week, 37 of the 48 titles been won basically by the same team in the NBA. And so this is a new breath of fresh air to have new blood on the block, new kids on the block, Charlton. And the basketball world, it is changing.
Yeah.
And so, yes, fans like certain players, but the aficionado likes great games.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. It's not about the name on the back. It's about the ball going through the basket.
Yeah, it's about the ball going through the basket, and a lot of teams are trying to get that ball to go through the basket, especially up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's all fair and love and war. It's as always is the case, Big C. There's always talk about free agency. The NBA still in the midst of the playoff chase, and everybody's trying to crown themselves as the NBA champion. But first, you got to get through the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. But there is talk, as there always is talk, prior to the last offseason, the 2021 NBA free agency class was seen potentially has historic players like LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the great King Paul George, Rudy Gobert, and Drew Holiday. They were all expected to be available. Instead, they all signed contract extensions with their existing teams, and that's drastically reducing the star power in this class. Are there any moves that you would think might be possible as we're all focused on the playoffs? But coming next year, there will be some star players that will be tipping off in different uniforms. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, that's the life of the NBA in every year. But it's not about free agent moves. It's about salary cap fit.
Yeah.
That's what you have to understand in the modern day of professional sports. You can sit there and loathe and say, wow, it'd be great if this player could go here or go there and team up. It's called salary cap implications.
Yeah.
And if you can't make it work financially, it doesn't make any difference what your name is.
Yeah, it's always something where the titties that are not in the playoffs, they always look for that new star to come to their city as the NBA waits the decision on the great Kawhi Leonard. And there's $36 million player option for next season. And then players like Kyle Lowry, Big C, and the great DeMar DeRozan are the best available free agency. There's always talk about people dumping their salary and trying to pay and do whatever they can to shift their roster around. But Kawhi Leonard, chances are he may not even finish out playing any more games this year, even if the Clippers reach the finals. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, whether he plays this year or not, it's about the money. Nobody out there can absorb his $36 million contract. But when you talk about player options, his option is being a Clipper.
Not so fast, my friend. Only 5 teams are projected to have significant cap space. But when you think about the New York Knicks, Big C, they lead the way with up to $50 million available with the free agent landscape, drastically altered from what is expected to happen. And I'm not going to say we're going to see Kawhi in New York City. But, oh, my goodness, what would a shy man like Kawhi do in New York City, Big C, your thoughts?
He did the same thing he did in Toronto. He would play basketball, Charlton, but he's not going to New York. He does not fit with what they're doing as a team. You not only do players have to fit what the roster is already in a team, Charlton, like I said, it's got to work salary cap-wise. Who do you get rid of to keep somebody? And if you don't have that type of scheme that you run as a team offensively and defensively, everybody doesn't fit because they got a name on their jersey.
Yeah, because they have that name on their jersey. It's all fair and love and war. Players will make decisions. Their agents will make decisions. One of the star agents out there is the great Rich Paul, Big C, Clutch Sports CEO Rich Paul. There's all this talk about Simmons.
Let me give you a perfect example.
Yeah.
Everybody's talked about Ben Simmons since he choked up in the playoff against the Atlanta Hawks and instead to shoot the basketball. Ben Simmons' contract is $197 million. What team would you think that Ben Simmons would be an asset for?
The Philadelphia 76ers, because they already know what they got out of him, Big C, and they, I guess...
But who would want to make a trade for Ben Simmons? You got a 6'10" guy that plays point guard that can't shoot.
Yeah.
And so he can't shoot free throws either. So what team that was in the playoffs other than the Philadelphia 76ers would he make better?
I think the Philadelphia 76ers, they got to figure out how to get him in the locker room.
No, other than the Philadelphia 76ers, what team do you think he would make better?
I don't think he'd make anybody better because right now they like his defense in Philadelphia. He could also dribble the ball up the court and find the open man. But what Doc Rivers said is what I think he's better off, like Dorothy said from The Wizard of Oz. There's no place like home. He's already at home where he knows the organization, the players know him, but all he has to do is get into the gym and work on shooting the ball with his offhand. And you know they have, at this stage of NFL and NBA and Major League Baseball performance, they have what's called performance coaches, guys that work with NLP programming. Boxers do it, Big C. Track and field guys do it. They all have coaches to make them better. Swimmers do it, Big C. Everybody has someone to make them better. He's not a bad athlete. He's just not a good shooter.
Well, everybody in the NBA is a good athlete. Ben Simmons been in the NBA for 5 years. He was at LSU for 1 year. And you're going to tell me during that time Ben Simmons has never had a shooting coach in the NBA or in college that has told him what he needs to do to work on his game? If you can't shoot, you can't shoot. You know, I remember when Ben Wallace was with the Pistons. Ben Wallace couldn't shoot. He was a great rebounder. The same height as Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
6'10". But you are what you are. You're 5 years into the NBA. The Philadelphia 76ers got rid of Markelle Fultz after 2 years because they said he couldn't shoot. He's a better shooter in the NBA than what Ben Simmons is.
Yeah.
Show me the guy in the NBA that cannot bring the ball up the floor. I mean, Giannis brings the ball up the floor. He's 7 feet tall. I saw Lopez bring the ball up the floor several times. He's 7 feet tall. So to say that the guy can bring the ball up the floor and play defense, look how many people on the all-defensive team in the NBA that average over 20 points a game other than Ben Simmons.
Yeah, but he's going to be on an NBA roster next year. Most likely he will stay in Philadelphia if Doc wants him there, and they'll find a way to help him shoot better. But he does a good job on the floor when he's on the court outside of having to shoot the ball. But he can learn to improve that skill. Everybody has to learn to improve whatever skill they're doing. We have NBA basketball tonight. There are some sightings that there's some big 7-foot and 6-foot tall birds flying around in the city of beautiful Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And there's also the Bay Bridge Series here in Northern California, the Oakland A's at the San Francisco Giants at City by the Bay, McCovey Cove. Also on the East Coast, we have the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox series. It's all fair and level more as we get ready for Lord Stanley's Cup. I know that everybody, Big C, I know that what you like in your cup, but a lot of people, when they get Lord Stanley's Cup, what do you think is the favorite drink for some of our friends in Canada, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I don't know about Canada, Charlton, but I heard out there in California they like to drink that melted down ice and all of the attributes that come along with it.
Yeah. We will take some melted down ice and all the attributes that come along with it. I wish everybody nothing but the best. College World Series doing their thing. NBA basketball doing their thing. NHL hockey is doing their thing. WNBA is doing their thing. Even some golf and some MMA going on all over this country. I want to have everybody all around the sports world, in fact, all around the sports universe. You can follow Big C Sports as we welcome you to the show Monday through Friday at 5 or 6 p.m. Available to millions on podcast radio. Show host Big C, former All-Pro NFL football players, 40 years of TV and radio experience. Charlton sports broadcaster with 30 years of TV and radio experience. The best real sports show talking sports and entertainment in the universe. It's all fair and love and war. All you have to do is rise and shine. Big C. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, "You float like a butterfly, and you sting like a bee. You rumble, young man, rumble. With all you've got to use, how can you lose, Big C?" What are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, back in the day, Muhammad Ali, the late Muhammad Ali, had a tune-up fight prior to his first fight with Joe Frazier in the city of Atlanta. And he knocked out Jerry Quarry. Today, I want to give homage to the Attorney General of the United States, Merrick Garland, because he filed suit against the state of Georgia today against their Voting Rights Act.
Wow.
So he's looking to score a knockout in the state of Georgia about voter obstruction, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you get the Attorney General and the Justice Department of the United States knocking on your door, don't think you might not be looking up from the canvas, Charlton. But once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. They'll be there to stop that nosebleed when they go down from the Justice Department.
Down goes voter obstruction. Down goes voter obstruction. Down goes Frazier. You don't have to obstruct justice. All you got to do is vote Exactly, you rise and shine. You can rise and shine every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old buds down south, as my mama always says, there's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sportscast, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.